in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood.
Hey y'all, and welcome to another edition of Freaky Friday, where we tell your odd but true stories. Friday, April 4th is the day. I don't believe it because I feel like yesterday was January.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's because, about 10 years worth of shit has happened in 3 months. So
honestly,
we're all a little mind fucked when it comes to time.
Right? Normally time's like one story every few days. And now it's like 16 stories per day every day. So it feels like we're speed running this year. But at least we get to speed run with 6 jaw-dropping, I will say, stories multiple times as I was pre-reading these. I was like, what? Y'all.
You have a theme again in yours, too. We're bringing back a beloved segment by many.
I love this theme, and I cannot wait for you all to hear the segment. But we've got some still in a non-themed, but in a themed in their own way, which are odd but true. Y'all came through, as usual.
Always, yes. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get freaky. This first one is from Anonymous. She says, "Hi, Mom."
Hi, baby.
And it's called, "I've been walking my dog past a dead person for over 2 weeks." Hi, Mama Heather and Auntie Christy. Technically, no crime occurred, to my knowledge, but this is still a bit heavy. Content warning for discussions of suicidal ideations. I've been living in my small apartment complex for just under a year. First place on my own. Yay. And I'm friendly with 2 neighbors who are often out smoking in the parking lot that I'll lovingly refer to as the ladies. They love my dog, and as a former smoker, I love standing by them. Also talking to them, of course, not to mention my dog is obsessed after they gave him an oversized tennis ball. This Monday, the ladies were outside when I took my dog out on my lunch break. They asked me if the police were still outside my apartment building. They live in a neighboring complex. I didn't see them, but asked if they knew what they were doing here. I have noticed an increase in police presence in my neighborhood, and I'm a nosy Nelly. The ladies mentioned the police appeared to be talking to one of my neighbors and specified which one. This particular neighbor uses a walker, and I noticed both the walker and what looked to be groceries, etc., outside on their back porch. I mentioned this to the ladies, who looked at each other and said, "Was it a lot of stuff? Maybe it's an eviction." I had to get back to work, so I just said, "It didn't look like that much stuff," or something like that, and didn't really think about it again. Cut to yesterday morning as I'm writing this. I was set to work from home and rolled out of bed dangerously close to my start time. The ladies were outside when I took my dog out. I tried to breeze past so I wouldn't be late, but they were like, "We found out what was going on with your neighbor." My dog was going nuts, very excited to see the ladies, so I was trying to calm him down while asking what they learned. I didn't hear them the first time because my dog was whining so loud, but I distinctly heard the phrase, "dead body." Mind you, I got up less than 10 minutes ago, so I interrupted them and said, "Wait, what? I couldn't hear you over my dog." One of the ladies was like, "Oh no, you heard me right. They found a dead body in a car sitting on my street name outside your building." I was quite shocked and uncaffeinated, so I got a little lost with the narrative. My best recollection is that the person who passed away was a new acquaintance of either the neighbor with the walker or their roommate and had helped them with some errands. What I do distinctly remember the ladies saying is that the person who was in there had been dead for 2.5 weeks. My heart broke when they said that. I knew what car, and I passed it at least daily walking my dog. How could nobody have come looking for them for 2.5 weeks? What even could have happened? Could someone have helped? Was it a natural death with really odd timing? Did they take their own life? I have a hard time thinking foul play. Weird, I know, considering I constantly consume true crime media, but I literally know nothing, except that they were there for over 2 weeks and nobody knew. It feels weird and voyeuristic as someone completely unrelated to their life, but I've had kind of a hard time processing this. On Sunday night, I was dealing with a really tough flooding of suicidal ideations. I'd quit smoking weed that day. Chemical imbalances are real, and it was the first night falling asleep without it in years. My partner talked to me and snuggled me until I was okay to sleep, but the SIs stuck around for longer than just that night, albeit in smaller doses. But then I learned that someone actually passed on less than 200 feet from my apartment, and nobody was looking for them. As shitty as it feels to say, that gave me the jolt I needed to get out of my SI ruminations. Maybe someone was looking, but I feel like someone would have ID'd their car in 2.5 weeks, right? Like I said earlier, I've noticed a lot more police in my neighborhood recently. I emailed a reporter late yesterday for a small local newspaper with what info I had, date and approximate time the coroner was here, location, etc., to see if they could report on what happened. Google gave me no results. I feel this overwhelming need to do something for them, but I have no clue what. Whatever happened, I need them to know that they had an impact. I'm hoping writing this puts that out into the universe. Thank you, ladies, the royal lady, of course, for building a community that I feel so comfortable sharing this with. I'm so grateful for this little online community. I've never been part of a group or fan base that I actually felt close to. Like, I love Taylor, but Swifties are intense. Lots of love for myself and my lovely fur babies. Pet tax paid for your eyes only, please. Keep it creepy.
I mean, there's something to say about just recognizing the humanity of another soul in your proximity, regardless of your relation to them or what you know about them. Just like a soul is a soul, a person that passed is a person that passed. I don't think it's unreasonable at all that, you know, you've thought about this and it's had an impact on you. And for the person who did pass, whether the reporter can find out or whatever, just knowing that, like, they mattered, at least to you, at least to one person, right?
Well, and they made a difference because it helped you get out of a suicidal ideation kind of spiral. My biggest question is, how would someone not have noticed a smell, or like, where was the body in the car?
Right.
I mean,
window wise, you think you'd see in.
Yeah.
Because it's like that person's been sleeping for like a long time.
Yeah.
I think it looks different. And the stuff being left outside the neighbor's house kind of makes me like, were they like halfway in between the errands when it all happened? So great question. I hope that the small local newspaper reporter may be able to, you know, help dig something up, or, you know, checking obituaries near you or whatever. It's not going to probably say in the obituary, you know, those type of details, but just trying to figure it out. But having the community that you have with the ladies, you know, somebody that you know and like neighbors and stuff, and experiencing that with them, I think that maybe helps soften the blow a little bit. But like you said, it not only did they matter, but they made a difference at the end of the day. And it is sad to think that someone could be gone that long in such a way that nobody notices.
Yeah. But they made a difference for you, and you shared their story, and I think it'll make a difference for others too. And don't feel weird that you're having a hard time processing it, because that is a weird and eerie thing to think about, that for 2.5 weeks, unbeknownst to you, a dead person was 200 feet from your apartment. That is a creepy thing to think about.
For sure, when you're passing them, especially if you pass them while walking your dog too, I think you obviously come across as a very kind, compassionate, and caring soul of like, oh my God, if I would have known. And obviously you did not know, so you have no blame there. But I think that's probably a little bit of a residual feeling of like, oh my God, like what could I have possibly done? And I mean, it sounds like at least somebody eventually, you know, came upon what had happened, but you did nothing wrong. And I think, in fact, you know, you're memorializing their legacy in a way that might not otherwise have been.
Absolutely. Well, this next one is from Maddie, and it's called The Day My Dad Died. Don't worry, he's okay now. Hello, fine Sinisterhood folks. I wrote in a few months ago about my experiences with road rage as a cyclist. In that story, I mentioned my sometimes hot-headed dad, and I wanted to share his incredible story. My dad has always been an athlete, playing soccer, rock climbing, skiing, riding his bike, and competing in triathlons. He got me into endurance sports as a kid, and we still go for bike rides together whenever we get the chance. In January of 2020, I was teaching my 6th grade social studies class when I got a call on my cell phone from my mom. It was 8 a.m. on a Monday, so I figured she pocket dialed me since she would know I'd be teaching. Still, I couldn't quite shake the feeling that something bad might be happening. Then my classroom phone rang, and my fears were confirmed. I answered, and my mom said, "Your dad is alive. I'm following the ambulance to the hospital." At those words, my whole brain went fuzzy with shock and panic. Turns out he had been swimming laps that morning when he got out of the pool halfway through his workout. The lifeguard on duty knew him, walked over to give him a hard time about quitting early. That's when my dad collapsed on the pool deck. The lifeguards started CPR, got an AED, and called an ambulance. I left work in a daze. Another teacher took my class, and I drove to the hospital nearly an hour away. In the ER, my mom, brother, and I sat around Dad's hospital bed as he went in and out of consciousness. The badass he was planning to go skiing that afternoon, and he kept asking, "What happened? When can I leave? I'm going skiing." He would then slip out of consciousness and wake up again, asking what happened and if he could go skiing. He doesn't remember this at all, but to me, it's still one of the scariest, and honestly also funniest and most dad-like, things about the day. He has no memory from the time he stopped swimming until he fully woke up hours later. We eventually learned that he had a freak sudden cardiac arrest and was medically dead on the pool deck before the lifeguards got the AED to restart his heart. He did not, in fact, go skiing that afternoon, but instead had open heart surgery and spent the next months confined to his armchair in my parents' living room, unable to walk more than a few yards. Only 22% of out-of-hospital sudden cardiac arrest patients survive to get to the emergency department, and only about 9% of them survive beyond that. A year later, my dad started competing in triathlons again. I cried watching him cross the finish line for the first time post-cardiac arrest. His story is one of good timing and great training on the part of the lifeguards and first responders. He met the ambulance driver at a survivors event at a baseball game and was able to personally thank him for saving his life. At the event, my dad helped another survivor who was partially paralyzed throw out the first pitch for the game, which, to me, is a perfect illustration of the man my father is. I've included a picture of us at the event, with Dad in his survivor shirt. I'm a huge advocate for people learning CPR and knowing where AEDs are at their places of work and how to use them. Without the incredible lifeguards, EMTs, ambulance drivers, cardiac doctors, and the nurses at the hospital, my dad wouldn't be here to ride his bike, climb mountains, and be my best friend. It may not be true crime or paranormal. Telling his story helps me continue to process what happened and to spread the word about how important basic life-saving skills are for everyone. You might just be the hero in someone else's story. Thank you for reading and for sharing your platform. You guys rock. Maddie. P.S. Get trained in CPR. P.P.S. Heather, I now teach a high school criminal justice class, and I find myself constantly using what I've learned from you to inform my lessons. It's my favorite class to teach. And Maddie included a link, which we'll include, to the Red Cross CPR training, so you can find a class near you and take that. Yeah,
redcross.org. It's vital to know this. Yeah. And the more people that know it, the more people that, like she said, you can be the hero in someone else's story. Amazing lifeguards to just be like, all right, that's the point of training, right? Is that you don't have to make a decision. You're like, he hit the deck and let's go. How scary that the last thing you remember is getting out of the pool and then you wake up going, I'm supposed to go skiing. And they're like, you were attached to a bunch of heart monitors. No.
Yeah. No, great job on the lifeguards' parts, everybody's part. Those phone calls, man, you know in your gut when you get one. Every time I've gotten one and it's at a weird time of day from my mom, I'm like, something isn't right with this. And every time I've been right. And you know in your gut that like something happened. So I'm so glad though that it wasn't a call saying we've lost your dad, and instead like just get to the hospital and that he survived. And I love that they have survivor events where you can have the opportunity to meet the people that literally saved your life and tell them thank you.
I'm sure you walk around with a ton of gratitude and are like, what, I just want to thank this person. Like, I'm here because I get to do these triathlons with my daughter because of you. And there's something to be said about the AEDs on site. My cousin's a nurse and she's used one of those to like jumpstart someone. I'm like, what do you do? She's like, you just like go into go mode and like that's what because the statistics are so low. Like she said, 78% don't even make it to the hospital.
Yeah.
So then 91% don't make it at the hospital. Like that's such numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad that your dad is one of on the good side of the statistics. And did he, ask him if he I guess he doesn't remember anything. Cause that is, some people are like, I remember, going through a tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
but others it's like snap on, snap off. And I think either of them I would be disturbed. Like, going I saw Gandalf versus I lost time. Like, what do you mean this was I got shocked on a pool deck, but maybe your brain protects you.
Yeah, it is weird. It's like anytime you go under anesthesia or something and you just kind of lose that time, you're like, well, my body was here, but my brain was somewhere else.
It really is, especially if you're like, oh, I just blinked. It doesn't feel like I was out for that long or whatever. But the picture you included is so very cute. I'm very
cute.
Happy that you can utilize any of the things we talk about on the podcast for school. I bet a high school criminal justice class would have been my favorite class to be in.
Oh, God.
Very
I wish
jealous.
I had been offered that.
Same. Damn. And you just look very fun and sweet with your dad. So thanks for including that picture.
Well, thank you so much for sending that in. And we're so glad that your dad is around. Tell him we said, what's up? And also, I'm going to say that his athleticism probably helped contribute to him surviving this as well.
No, that's true. A friend of mine's dad was in a massive car accident and he was an Ironman, and they were like, it's going to take 6 months to recover. And he recovered in some very shorter amount of time because they're like, oh, you're like an Ironman triathlete. Mm-hmm. Your body, because it really is just cellular regeneration. I'm like, oh, your body is used to this. So good on you, Dad, for keeping, even into coming out of it and being like, when can I go back to doing my things? I don't want to sit in an armchair. I would like to run, please.
Oh, being confined to an armchair for so long when you're such an active person like that, misery.
It's like prison.
I'm so glad that y'all are able to do the things you love again.
Yeah. Sinisterhood will be right back.
Well, your daughter's written it again.
Hello, love.
This time, it's called Non-Dramatic Possible Near-Death Experience. Hello, Heather, Christy, and all of the Sinisterhood family. Absolutely love the show. You were recommended to me by my sibling years ago, and we've listened along through the pandemic and the ups and downs of life. Thank you both for being there and sharing your lives with us. As I'd like to be called anonymous, hello again to Honorary Mother Heather. On to my non-dramatic, possible near-death experience. For context, I have several chronic health issues, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or HEDS, and myalgic encephalomyelitis, or ME, being the predominant ones. Last year, my amazing best friend married her wonderful husband. They waited a month and a bit for their proper honeymoon, and as I'm a broke PhD student, I offered to cat sit and house sit so they can enjoy their honeymoon with peace of mind. I had already cat sit for another beautiful friend earlier in 2024 for her honeymoon, so I was feeling something of a pro at cat caretaking. Plus, my family and I have our 3 fur babies who are cat-shaped and 1 dwarf rabbit-shaped, so I definitely know what I'm doing. I was looking forward to a bit of peace for a fortnight, 2 weeks, as I live at home with my parents and younger brothers and sibling, so being able to quietly work on my thesis would be ideal. This is important context, as I was feeling great about the cat sitting. I'd be helping a friend the only way I could, plus I felt it was extremely generous of them to open their home to me for a little break, and entrusting me with their Mog Mog, the nickname for their lovely boy. As the time drew near for my journey from the north of the UK to south of London, I began to feel an impending sense of dread. I know myself to be anxious about some things, like making the connection between trains. So over the years, I've become extremely good at organization to alleviate travel anxiety. I did all my usual prep in the weeks leading up to the journey. I knew everything was absolutely fine. Still, that deep dread continued to grow. You know when you feel absolutely certain of something, that deep clarity of certainty that blooms from the center of your chest, squeezing your stomach, settling heavily on your shoulders? I was feeling all of that. I could not shake it. I made a list of everything I'd be taking with me. I double-checked everything with my friend about taking care of Mog Mog. I told myself I was being ridiculously over-anxious because I was feeling the responsibility of trust my friend had placed in me. Nothing worked. Rather, the opposite was happening. After the first week of November, the dread had coalesced into a certainty. I was not going to come back. My mom, sibling, and I have always been in tune with our feelings or premonitions, whatever you'd like to call it. We've known things before they happen and have been eerily right. Those are stories for another day. Knowing how often we're right and then having this certainty that I was going to die didn't freak me out as much as it might have. I just felt incredibly sad that I wouldn't be there to live my life, that it would be a grief to my whole family. My feeling was I was going to be alone, I would be in my friend's home, and I was going to die. I couldn't take the feeling internally anymore, and I told my mom. She held me, comforted me, and told me she was sure I would be home again. The feeling didn't subside. Mid-November rolled around, and I arrived at my friend's house. She had made an incredibly useful file all about Mog Mog, local area services, the little quirks of the house, everything I could possibly need to know. I'd been to their home a few times before, but hadn't seen the top floor where the guest room was, or the garage accessible via an internal door in the hallway where the washing machine and freezer were. The rest of the garage was used for storage. After the house tour, they left for their honeymoon, and I was left with an initially incredibly peeved Mog Mog before he realized I could, with permission of his cat guardians, bribe him with treats. Nothing happened for over a week. I locked the doors and windows every night, and even during the day, didn't bother to unlock the doors unless I was going out. My fears began to subside. I got into a new routine and began to feel a bit more settled as I counted the days until I'd be back home. One evening, as I was getting ready for bed, I remembered I hadn't taken any meat out of the freezer. I'd already changed from my day pajamas into my night pajamas. We all have day and night PJs, right? Which were thin cotton bottoms and a light t-shirt. I hadn't bothered to put my jumper back on, as the sofa I was curled up on had plenty of blankets, and boy, were they needed. That November had a flash of cold weather come in. Evening temperatures were below freezing. I checked the time on my phone, which was charging next to me, saw the time was nearly 10, decided to finish the documentary episode I was watching, then got up to protest from Mog Mog and popped downstairs to the garage to grab that freezer meat. As soon as I entered the garage, my breath was visible. Shivering, I closed the door behind me. My friend had mentioned Mog Mog occasionally got trapped in the garage as he slips in behind her. He had taken to following me around as his food and heat source, so I didn't want to take any risks, especially on a night like this. After finding what I wanted from the freezer, I moved back to the door and tried turning the latch. It would not move. I tried again and realized the mechanism was a deadlock, that in shutting the door completely, I had locked myself into the garage. Shit. Standing in thin clothes, barefoot on concrete floor, clutching meat that was the same temperature out of the freezer as it had been in the freezer, I stared wide-eyed at the door. I was alone. I was getting colder by the second. I had left my phone upstairs. I felt like a prize idiot. I turned back to the freezer to put the meat down. No point in freezing my fingers further. And there, on the flat white surface of the unit, sat the black rectangle of my phone. Thinking back, and this was a night I am going to remember clearly for quite some time, I cannot remember picking my phone up. I would have had to hold the phone in my hand, as those particular PJs didn't have pockets. I'd left my phone on charge upstairs. At the time, I did not think or care about it. I had a way out. I mentioned earlier I have HEDS and ME. With these conditions come a lot of joint pain, mobility issues, and a huge difficulty with maintaining body temperature. Even on the sunniest summer day, I keep a jumper close by as my body heat just will not stay. And there I was, in a garage without heat and without warm clothes. Calling the honeymooners was the first step. Maybe I could get out of the garage through the outside door. Maybe they had another friend close by who had a key to the front door. No luck. They were so concerned for my safety, and we agreed I'd call a locksmith. That's when the panic really started coming in waves. Admitting out loud to my friends what had happened, the situation I was in through my own idiocy, not only felt incredibly shameful, but filled me with guilt that I was now worrying them on their honeymoon. It was 10:30 at night. My phone's weather app showed the temperature to be -3 degrees Celsius or 26 degrees Fahrenheit. And the locksmith company had not been too reassuring about when they'd get out to me, as it was after hours. Checking my phone's charge and seeing it was at 55%, I decided it was worth calling my sibling quickly to let them know what was happening. I needed someone in the country to know, and like hell, I was calling Mom and Dad until this was all over. I quickly filled them in and told them I'd call them back when I could. I remember wishing I could keep them on the phone until help arrived, but I was too worried about the battery running out. The silence after that call was one of the worst. All I could hear was my breath, ragged, on the point of utter panic. It was colder. It had been 20 minutes. My nails were a dark black in the dim orange light, and I knew under a different light, they'd look blue. I was shivering violently, but I let it happen. It's the body's way of warming itself, after all, and I felt grateful that however much on the day-to-day my body and I were at odds, here it was doing everything it could to help me. While this may seem like an abrupt aside, it will make sense, I promise. My father, before the trauma of the job and the toxic environment created by the people he worked for and with gave him severe problems, he'd been a funeral director. I'll probably write in another time about some of his experiences with his permission. Part of his position was to go and bring the deceased persons into the care of the funeral home. One particular event was swirling like soap bubbles around a drain in my mind at that moment in the garage. A young woman had very tragically died from exposure after not being able to get into her sister's home and had been found in the snow the next morning. I was in a better position than that poor woman, being inside. However, the temperature was still dropping. I had health conditions which aren't compatible with the cold, and there was nothing I could see to wrap myself up in. I kept thinking about that lady, her family's grief, my family, over and over in my head. Checking my phone, I saw nearly an hour had passed. I was not shivering anymore. That scared me. My mind raced, analyzing myself. My limbs did not feel particularly cold anymore. Probably not good. I felt sleepy, but then it was about 11:30. That could just be because I should be in bed. Warm, cozied up in a duvet with Mog curled around my feet. My feet. I couldn't even feel my legs. Even touching my legs with my hands didn't help because I had no feeling in my hands either. Pressing my finger to the scanner on my phone didn't work. I had to clumsily press the touchscreen passkey. Perhaps I should call someone. Anyone. Car doors shut outside and I heard two people approach. Relief wasn't the quick shot through the heart it probably should have been. Even my emotions were feeling frozen, slow to respond. They had to drill the lock to get into the garage. The father in his Grinch pajama bottoms that I wanted to laugh looking at, but my face could only form a sort of wide grin. And his son, who he was showing the ropes of the business to. Just being around other people was incredible. I could barely speak and sounded a bit tipsy, so I explained, which I'd normally not do around two fellas I'd never met and in the place I was living, even if one was a boy and the other wore Grinch PJs, that I had HEDS and ME and was so cold. I decided in the moment I could hardly be more vulnerable in any case. Plus, the locksmith company must have his details, and we had quietly shouted our numbers to each other so we could speak via phone before he got into the garage. He showed his son how to drew through the internal door back into the house after he couldn't jimmy the latch open. And finally, we were in the bright and warmer hallway. I thanked him, and he kept asking if I was okay. Grabbing my purse to pay him from upstairs, I caught sight of myself in the glass of a photo frame. Ghosts had more color in their face than me, and my eyes were filled with tears. I hadn't even realized. I paid a wincing amount of money for my folly, and he and his son left. Texting my friends and siblings, I had a flurry of face calls back. I burst into tears talking to my friends, apologizing for the now necessity of replacing the lock on the garage and internal door. Thankfully, it's still locked, so the house was secure, and promising I'd pay for the damage. They assured me they were just glad I was safe. I still haven't run them to earth about how much it costs to replace and feel incredibly guilty they haven't told me. Eventually, I'm going to have to put cash in an envelope or something because my dear friend is staggeringly good at avoiding my questions over it. Only then did I call Mom, who answered my past midnight call immediately. As I explained what had happened, I realized the sense of dread I had carried with me for about a month had completely gone. The pain of warming back up was horrid. It was like extreme pins and needles everywhere. I shivered and shook again, assumed that was the shock of what had happened. And going into the bathroom after a bit to wash the tears from my face, I saw another condition I have. Raynaud's phenomenon. It caused mottling all over my face. No wonder the poor bloke who got me out of the garage had asked repeatedly if I was okay. I looked like a frozen lizard. I've had mottling on my hands and feet before from the Raynaud's, but never a full body effect. I crawled straight into bed after making a cup of tea, I know, so bloody British, and sipped it while I still shivered. I slept for about 13 hours. I did not feel really warm for days after that, but I did feel happier, aside from the need to laugh at myself for my stupidity in shutting a locking door behind myself and the sheer amount of money it cost. Typing this out, I can still feel the panic I kept in my chest that night. It was awful, not just because I'm quite proud of my ability to not mess up like that through organizing as much as I can and my usually good common sense, but because until I saw my phone on that freezer, I felt that was it. I was not getting out of there. I don't know how my phone came with me. I believe in an afterlife and would like to think one of my dead loved ones caught me before I could fall. This is the closest I've got to a near-death experience, and the closest I'd like to get until it's my actual time to die and see what comes next. I've got a great deal of respect for people who have had actual near-death experiences, and don't know if anyone would consider this misadventure of mine one. It's not dramatic in terms of a vital medical emergency, a plane crash, or similar event, but this perhaps does show, as my father's previous job showed me long ago, that even in our homes, things can happen. I hope one day I'll feel less guilty over it. Thank you for taking the time to read this, whether it's on the pod or not. It really has been cathartic to write it out and know it'll be shared with you both. Attached are some photos of my fur babies for your eyes only. My rabbit is the handsomest boy in the world. He's now 9, and the girls are clearly as superior as only cats can be. The end. Then, that's all, folks.
Add them all in there. I like the ending.
Get it? Put them all in. This is like an episode of Rescue 911. The way my heart was pounding. You say that you felt the panic just writing it out. I felt the panic reading it because it's shit like this that keeps me up at night. These like at home, just freak accidents that you can't get out of.
And it's like you just accidentally locked yourself in the garage. It's like, and also with no shoes, and it's also doing something that we all do all the time, which is, I'm just going to pop down to the freezer and grab that thing. It'll take me 2 seconds. I'll leave my phone inside. That's fascinating that you're like, I have a distinct memory that my phone was charging, and then I turned and it was the phone of requirement. Like it was just there when I needed it. So like you said, whether it's your, guardian angel, family member, spirit guide, or just like a glitch in the matrix and you willed it there through your own force of like, I will live, give me a phone. But getting trapped out there with disorders like this that make you more susceptible to the cold is like, this is not, if you ever tell this story to someone and they're like, what, you got stuck in a garage? It's like, you don't understand. I Googled mottling, mottling, which is like the splotching that happens all over your body. And I'm like, to think that I've seen it, if somebody has like severe Raynaud's or really, really cold, you've seen it, like she said, on your hands and feet, but to have that on your face, you were like, ma'am, are you okay? Like, are you sure you're okay? You're like, I just want to go back and lay down with the cat. They're like, are you sure?
Yeah. I hope you absolve yourself of the guilt that you've mentioned multiple times, because this could happen to anyone. And literally. I don't think it has anything to do with being stupid or careless or anything. It's just like one of those things that could happen to anybody. And if I got a call from my friend / house sitter / pet sitter, it wouldn't ruin my honeymoon. I would be like, thank God you called me so we can figure this out together. You know, it would ruin my honeymoon. My friend dying in the garage because they didn't want to call me and ruin my honeymoon. So, and I don't have these conditions and I would have been panicking. Hypothermia is
It's
something
real.
not to fuck around with. And when you realize you're not shivering anymore and you can't feel the cold is when it's gotten bad. And that tipsy feeling is what people describe when they are experiencing hypothermia. You almost feel kind of drunk.
And to be like, I don't know, it's just come on in, guys. It's fine. Yeah, you are in a serious situation. And I would echo what you said, Christy. Like, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. We all make mistakes. And especially I hard relate as a person who is very like, I have planned this to a T. I have memorized everything. I will not have bad things happen because I have looked everything in the face myself. And it's like, you just can't expect that. Like, it's that last minute, the thing you thought you couldn't. So I agree. Like, if I got a call like this, I wouldn't be like, what is wrong with you? I'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? And also, that fucking door locks behind you and it sucks. I'm sorry. I should have told you about it.
Yeah. Well,
and plus you didn't want Mog to get out. So that's the other thing. If it was like, I was trying to make sure the goose didn't get out. And so I was extra careful and I locked myself out. I wouldn't be like, well, thanks for thinking of my pet. It's like, oh my God, you thought of my pet so much that you're now in danger. Let me help you. But goddamn, what a time. Oof, I got cold reading this.
No. And it's really is things like this that stick in my brain. This story will stick with me for a long time. In rescue 911s that I've seen that are just freak accidents like this still live rent free in my head because it's stuff that like can happen to anyone. And it is such a like, you're just like popping downstairs to do something. You think you'll be right back up. And then like hours later, you know, it's just, there's something about like, you're just going about your daily life, your routine, and one thing you do could change the trajectory of everything. One little thing, you know?
Yeah. The door just auto locks and you're like, well, my night just became very different. It's not cuddling with the cat under the blanket, but it is now going to be like a man in the Grinch pajamas comes to save you.
Dude. And what if the phone hadn't been there?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're screaming, I guess, as long as you can before you like pass out or something because you're freezing. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing this with us. And I just want to say, I love how you write. You write in what sounds like a British accent in my head. So it was quite fun to be like, how bloody British of me and other various things. So it was, it's great to hear from your true, I mean, everybody's voice, but especially when it's like British voice, I particularly love it.
We love the British.
Certainly. Take us, please. Take us back. We're sorry for what we did. 1776.
Just please let me over there.
Yes. We didn't mean it in 1776. Anyway. No, thank you very much, and I'm glad you're safe, and I love your rabbit, and I love your cats, and I love you.
Yes.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
Well, you have a theme. I've given you a theme 2 weeks in a row now.
I love these themes, and this is why you are the amazing Freaky Friday curator. You're our story sommelier, as I say. So Kelsey is kicking us off with this first one, and the subject line of her email, I think can be part of, that's like the theme title, What the Fuck is Wrong with Men?
Yeah, we're bringing it back, and there's no shortage of stories. I'll tell you that.
As you listen, if you've got your own, send it in. This one, I definitely gasped at. So thank you, Kelsey, for sending it in. Here goes. Hello, ladies. First, I want to congratulate you on being my #1 listened to podcast on my Spotify Wrapped this year. Your storytelling, empathy, hilarious voices, and life stories keep me company at work. On a past Freaky Friday, you shared a segment called What the Fuck is Wrong with Men? A question we all ask. After listening to stories and hearing some creepy workplace encounters, I remembered one from a few years ago. I'm a chef, and at the time, I worked in a restaurant in a high-end hotel. I'm talking $500 a night. The restaurant was not owned by the hotel, but we still provided room service via an app that would send orders to our POS system and then print the tickets on the kitchen printers. Then a food runner or host would take the order to the room. We had a host who was a 16-year-old high school girl, and this was her first job. One evening, a room service order came and she delivered it. When she returned, her face looked like she'd seen a ghost. I asked her what was wrong. She said that when the guest who ordered room service answered his door, he was only wearing a robe. It was closed, but only covering up the bottom half of him, and he was definitely naked underneath. Grossed out myself, I asked if he said anything to her, and she said no, just that he was a 50-something-year-old man in a very open robe. The next evening, we got an order from the same room. but there was a note under special requests. He asked if the girl who delivered his food yesterday could deliver it again. Oh, hell no. Now this guy was on my list. I told the girl she would not have to take his food to him. I instead told our front of house manager, let's call him Pete, who is a 6'4" girl dad, about this guy, and he gladly took the order. Sorry, robe man, no pervy shit tonight. You can imagine Pete and the perv's mutual surprise when the door was open and the perv was completely naked. Yep, that dude was planning on having a 16-year-old girl bring him food and show himself off to her. What the actual fuck? We let the hotel manager know, and he was told to leave the hotel and never return. No refund or anything. Unfortunately, sexual harassment is very common in the hospitality industry, but this incident is by far the most disgusting and bizarre story I have from my 15 plus years. Thank you, ladies, for all you do. P.S. I was recently in Maine and went to the International Cryptid Museum in Portland. I didn't know what to expect, not model replicas of squatch poop compared to other animals, but it was $10 and I think worth it. I recommend if you're ever in the area. Also, dog tax has been paid. Stay creepy.
Oh, man, I hate this so fucking much. I hate everything about it, except your cute dog and the Portland Cryptid Museum.
Except Pete. I love Pete.
Pete's
he was like,
great. Pete,
let me take that appetizer up there.
Yeah. And then imagine the audacity of that man to stand there butt-ass naked, hoping and thinking a 16-year-old girl is going to be on the other side of the door. And then what? And then what are your plans?
Yeah. Do you
monster?
You still want the Brussels sprouts, or what are we doing with these? Yeah.
Dude.
I love that he got caught with his dick out by a dude, a girl dad being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You should be embarrassed. Yikes. And
you should be embarrassed and crazy to even write in the additional notes, hey, can the young girl that delivered my food last night, can the child bring me the food again? Like, that's insane.
So that I can show her my penis? Yeah.
Dude.
Even if it's an adult, any person of any stripe, unconsensual penis showing, not good. Let's stop that. Don't do that.
No, even if she was of age, it doesn't matter. Like, no one should have to just be doing their job and be sexually harassed / assaulted in any kind of way. That's crazy. And for your first job,
right?
That poor girl.
Said, and then what? Like, he planned on opening that door, and then what? So, well, shout out to you for Kelsey for being like, hey, Pete, I got something for you.
Right.
And also, I like that the hotel was like, get the fuck out.
Yes.
And we are not refunding you, and no points for you for this stay.
Banned forever. You're never allowed back. And never. I hope that was the last time. But I feel like people that do that kind of shit, that's not their first time, and it wasn't the last time. The robe was testing the waters,
to see if she was like,
grooming in a way of like, I'm going to dip my toe in, probably also maybe for the sick fetish she has of like, and the next time it's no robe at all.
Escalating, disgusting. Well,
you
the best
monster.
Part, like you said, Christy, the best part's these doggy pictures.
Oh, yes. It looks like a little beagle.
Sweetie, well, you would never do something to that like that, sweet beagle.
Hell no.
No. Well, thank you very much, Kelsey, for kicking us off on this theme. The next one is from Tabby, aka Stabby Tabby. What's up, friend? Shout out. Sinisterhood will be right back. And Stabby Tabby's subject line is a tale for what the fuck is wrong with men. Hey there. First, thank you for what you do. Whenever I'm down, I just put the two of you on, and it helps take my mind away from spiraling. This is one of the best communities on the internet. I wanted to submit one of my many experiences I've had in the retail environment for the What the Fuck is Wrong with Men segment. During my career, I worked for Nintendo as a retail representative, basically a brand ambassador. My job entailed visiting various retail stores that carry Nintendo products to make sure the store had the merchandise out, the interactives worked, and to educate the employees on new games coming out. We would also do in-store demo days where we would showcase a game to the customers by letting them play it, giving out swag, etc. I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and I had to do a demo at a Walmart that was frequented by tourists because it was relatively close to the Las Vegas Strip and the airport. The demo started at 11 a.m. in the electronics department. I'll set the scene. I had a table set up with various swag items and the 3DS system with the game the customers could play. A man approached in one of those motorized wheelchairs that Walmart provides. He was definitely a tourist based on how he was dressed. He had those acid-washed, bedazzled jeans that were in style, I guess. His shirt was white and sort of Western themed, but also bedazzled and unbuttoned, so his chest hair was exposed. He had sunglasses on, and his hair was styled but messed up at the same time. He rolled up to the table and stood to look at the items. I observed that he was drunk at 11 a.m., so yeah, definitely a tourist. He struck up a slightly slurred conversation, stating he was just using the scooter because he had had a rough night. I smiled and said something like, Vegas can have that effect. He kind of flirted with me, saying, I can tell you like Depeche Mode because of your haircut. He wasn't wrong. I deflected the flirting. He eventually went on his way. I thought that was the last time I would see him. Unfortunately, I wasn't that lucky. He drove by a few more times, flirting each time, but rolling away after I deflected the drive-by attempts. The staff noticed all of this, and each time would ask, do you want us to get security to remove him? I told them he should sober up soon and not to worry. He did not sober up. He came by the final time, stood up, leaned over the table, and said, I would love to bend you over and lick your asshole. I immediately said, okay, get security, he's out. The associates were nearby and quickly intervened, and security escorted the trash out. We learned why he hadn't sobered up. He had been stealing the little box wines and pouring them into a McDonald's cup that he had. Who knows how many he had guzzled. Security walked me to my car after the demo was over. Unfortunately, this isn't the only time a man decided it was okay to approach me and speak to me in this way while I had this job. Once, a very old man approached me at Fry's Electronics in Las Vegas. He told me he liked my haircut and that he wanted to see me in a spray-painted dress and stilettos. What the fuck? Unrelated, I have attached pet pics for the pet tax. The dog is Kaiju, the tabby cat is Max, and the calico is Furiosa. Anywho, keep it creepy. Love, Tabby, a.k.a. Stabby Tabby, a.k.a. one of our most elite Sunday Scary submitters. Thank you.
Yes, an OG. Thank you so much for your continued support and love over the years. And
yeah.
Oh my God, what the fuck is wrong with men? What on earth makes you think you can go up to a woman who's working and say such a vile thing to her?
Unprompted.
And then what? You think she's going to be like, oh my God, I was hoping you'd roll over here and say that to me and just drop her pants?
Who amongst us hasn't thought, there's nothing more I'd like in the world than a wasted man in bedazzled jeans and a Western shirt to bend me over and lick my asshole? If only one would roll by and ask.
Like, for some reason, in my head, he looks like Guy Fieri because the hair messed up, but that's styled. And I imagine it's like bleach blonde too.
To me, he looked like the lead singer from Rascal Flatts, but same thing. It's the same. Those are different models of the same thing.
You are at a Walmart at 11 a.m. in Vegas, rolling around in that outfit, slugging down boxed wine that you've stolen and dumped in a McDonald's cup.
You're not.
If that's where you're at in your life, reevaluate and make some big ass changes, because you cannot go and say shit like that to anybody.
No, I'm always like, would your mom be proud of you right now?
No, I hope not.
Part of this, or think of anybody in your life. Would you want them to see you like this? And I think that's a new thing we have to bring back with dudes like this, with what the guy that Kelsey wrote about, or the dudes Tabby's write about, is like, almost like where it's not like, I'm not even like afraid or offended, but like, are you serious right now? You should be embarrassed.
Yeah, you should so disgusting.
Really roll that off something. Like, roll yourself into the dumpster.
Go roll yourself into the parking lot in front of a car.
Yeah.
Because like, one thing, and maybe the main thing that men like this hate, is being embarrassed. And fuck it. Fuck their feelings. Fuck embarrassing them. The only reason you might not say something is fear of your own safety. But if you've got security there and employees that know what's up, be like, attention, get on the fucking microphone. Overhead speaker, like aisle 5. We have a cleanup because this guy just said he wants to bend me over and lick my asshole and he's drunk on box wine. You'll notice him because he's the one shimmering under these bright ass lights because all these fucking bedazzled sequins.
You'll see him coming. He reflects from every direction. I'm a mirror ball. No, for real though. I mean, I think you did it right, Stabby Tabby. Kick his ass out. And that's what I'm glad too now. The more the bolder people in general are getting, filming other people's shitty behavior. Cause it's like, I feel like for decades, centuries even, people get away with what they think they can get away with, or they do what they think they can get away with. So it's like, no one's going to hear me. No one's going to see me. And now we have it. It's like, well, I recorded your face. And then somebody on TikTok is like, this guy works at XYZ Incorporated. I found him. Here's his wife. Here's his Facebook. It's like, we need to bring back the public shaming because it's like your behavior speaks for yourself. If you do not want people on the internet to find out where you work and what you do, then behave better. It's like, no, Tabby did nothing wrong.
Gloves are off.
Chelsea did nothing. Like, people did nothing wrong. Like,
no,
we need to find your name and put it out there. And don't be a pervert if you don't want people to go around saying you're a pervert.
Also, both of these stories and the last one we're about to read, all of these happen while the victim is at work.
Just trying to work.
Just trying to fucking exist and earn a paycheck to live their life. And I think men think they can get away with things even more in that environment because it's kind of like, well, the customer's always right. Or like, you're not going to act up because you're at work. I'll knock your ass off that wheelchair and run you over with it. I don't give a fuck who I'm working for if you talk to me like that.
No, I think you're right. And I think too, from a predator perspective, you want to choose prey that is in a more vulnerable position. And when they know that the victim is constrained by the social mores of their job, then it's like, well, she's not going to like tell me to go fuck myself. She works for Nintendo. Or she's not going to punch me in the face. She works for the room service company or whatever. And it's like, you'd be surprised. There are other jobs and I'll catch a charge. I don't give a fuck.
No, yeah. Also, I feel like in both of these situations, it's warranted. Like you're being threatened.
You did not. Yeah. Neither of any of these people that have written in today have done anything wrong. But
I'm saying though, if you do punch somebody in the face and then the cops show up, you're like, well, this is what happened.
I always say,
I don't know. I don't know what a cop would do, but what I would do is say, I was acting in self-defense because I felt like my well-being was in jeopardy.
A++. That's exactly what you should say. Say, I had a reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm. Which means you've been assaulted, right? Depends on the definition in your state. Battery is like they make contact. Assault is they make you in fear of imminent bodily harm. And it's like he leaned forward over at me or he opened the thing. He did this. So I'm not saying.
Instead, I want to do something to your body.
Yes. Instead, I want to violate you against your will. So I think in both of these cases, you are in reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm and reacting in the way that you react, whether it is calling security, yelling in their face, running them over with the scooter. I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? A push away, a hit, whatever. I would not say, oh, I'm not giving you like advice to go do these things. But in cases, generally speaking, if you do have that fear and it is a reasonable fear, which is judged by, your peers or whatever, or DA. But so you might have to work that out on the back end. But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going, get the fuck away from me, do whatever, call security. So, goddamn. How about what we're about to talk about in this last one? Other men, other people should also, like, we are all our friends' keepers. I told Paris, you're going to get a call that's like Heather got arrested because she cussed somebody out or she pushed somebody down that was talking to somebody else. Like, we're not doing this anymore. We don't do this anymore.
No. We don't. It's, I follow a lot of people on TikTok that, there's one in particular that I can't think of his name, but he's very well known. The, kind of salt and pepper hair, beard, big guy. And he will. Yes. Love him. And this exact thing, he'd be like, oh, okay. Well, John Doe, you live at 123, Predator Lane, and this is where you work. And this is your boss. I mean, like, ruin their fucking life. Who cares?
Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not fair to do. It's like, it's not fair that they walk around being predators. And by the way, what they said to Tabby, not the first time he said that to somebody or said something similar horrifically to someone like that. So yeah, get your fucking shit together in your bedazzled jeans rolling around the Walmart, you dumbass.
How embarrassing.
For real.
Go roll into traffic.
For sure. Well, thank you, Tabby. Sinisterhood will be right back. Well, this last one is from R, and he's got a subject line for us. What the fuck is wrong with men? Department store edition. Hi, Christy and Heather. Y'all rock. Big fan. I just listened to Freaky Friday episode 141 and stories of your new segment, What the Fuck is Wrong with Men? And it made me think of my own run-in with a retail creeper. I was 18 and it was my first semester of college. I had a rough start to my college journey. I ended up unenrolling from the 4-year school I was going to attend on the North Shore of Massachusetts very shortly into my first semester and moved back in with my dad in Western Massachusetts. Back home, I attended one of the local community colleges. I also found a job since I enrolled late enough in the ad drop period that I was only a part-time student. The chain department store with the 3 big letters in its name was hiring retail associates, and my Myers-Briggs starts with an E, so it seemed like a really good fit. I got the job on the spot and began working in the shoe department. Best/worst placement ever. As I started to make more and more of my own money, my room looked like a centipede lived in it. If you've worked retail, especially in a big department store type entity, you know that while you may officially work in one section, you are required to keep your surrounding sections tidy too. So, in addition to shoes, I also kept the kids' shoe section, baby section, and one specific part of the large home section, towels, of course, the one thing I cannot fold despite all the tutorials, neat and tidy as well. I was a few months into the job and worked closing shifts because I was in class or doing homework during the day. One cold, early December night, I was fighting for my life folding towels in the home section when a middle-aged man came into the store through the entrance that was in between the home section and the shoe department. He was taller than me. Most men are. I'm a short king. But he was maybe like 5'7" overall. He was bulky, had a mop of thin, messy brown hair on top of his head, and wore small, oval-framed glasses. He was wearing a flannel shirt with a green puffer vest over it, Carhartt work pants, and steel-toed boots. I smiled, gave him a friendly greeting as a retail associate is apt to do, and asked if he needed help with anything. He definitely hadn't noticed me folding the towels against the back wall at first, and was a little startled, but turned to talk to me. This is where I should mention, and only because it is relevant to the story, I am a trans man, and I was not out or transitioning at this time. So when the man turned around and saw me, he saw a quirky 18-year-old woman in a knee-length Matryoshka doll print skirt and turquoise cardigan. He smiled back at me like the Cheshire Cat and began walking toward me. He stopped an acceptable distance away from me. There was space for maybe like 2 vertical display tables between us, but nothing after that was acceptable. I was so young at the time, overly friendly and still very naive, and I was a retail associate, trained to provide the best customer experience possible. I don't blame myself for any of these things for how long I engaged with the man. But when I think back on it, I do wish that 12 years ago I had you two and the other badass true crime ladies I listened to in my ear telling me to be rude, mean, weird, whatever you need to be to get the creeps away from you. He began asking me things about the store and its operations. Are there any sales going on? Yes, I said. BOGO, half off regular priced items. Then he asked, what are your extended holiday hours? Easiest way to explain is tack an extra hour onto the end of our regular operating hours. Will you take my expired coupon? It's only 2 days old. I replied, yeah, we can do that for you. This time, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just shit like that. Then he asked questions about the store and about me. Are you new here? I don't think I've seen you around before. How long have you been here? A few months, I said. Then he asked about just me. He had clearly noticed something in my mouth. My 18-year-old with more expendable income than I'd ever have self had just gone down to my favorite piercing parlor a few weeks prior and gotten myself a tongue ring, something I'd wanted for years since my childhood days of watching early 2000s media, particularly 13 with Nikki Reed and Evan Rachel Wood. Don't at me. The man noticed the silver ball on my tongue and asked, wow, you have your tongue pierced? How old are you? In that moment, I felt the beginning tendrils of a physical reaction. My stomach ever so slightly sank. My armpits tingled with the threat of scared sweat. Paralysis seeped into my toes and slowly crept up my feet and my ankles. 18, I mumbled. My overly chipper demeanor zapped away in one creepy question from the man. Oh, wow, he said, and his gaze was so hard it physically hurt me when he gave me a once-over. You're younger than my daughter. Shards of icy sweat were now tearing through my pits. My stomach was in my butt, and my feet were firmly stuck to the floor, my eyes wide and unblinking. I used to be a freeze/fawner when it came to the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn reactions, and I was big time frozen. "Did you get that for any particular reason?" he asked me, leaning in conspiratorially and looking at me pointedly over the rim of his glasses. I shook my head and put the towel I was trying to fold down immediately. Closing shifts were still bare bones in the early part of the holiday season, just enough to get the job done, so I knew I was the only associate in my area of the store at that moment. Feeling helpless, I still looked around wildly for an escape. Then I saw her, a woman with cotton ball hair standing at my shoe counter. How long had she been there? Who knows? I sure didn't. And that was unacceptable by retail laws. "So sorry, I have to go help another customer. Let us know if you have any other questions," I said. Retail R was back on, and I scooted my boot over to the shoe department as quickly as I could. The woman was so kind. She said she hadn't waited too long and that she saw me, quote, helping that other customer and didn't want to bother me. I assured her she could have absolutely interrupted that exchange, though in retail associate fashion, I didn't explain why. Just said, "I'm here to help you too." When I went back into the back room to find a pair of shoes in the woman's size, I found my manager back there processing new items. I explained what had happened with the man. She, to her immense credit, told me to finish the night processing the freight in the back and that she would take over the floor. I described the man to her to keep him on her radar. When we closed that night, she told me she had seen him leave, but she still walked me to my car. That wasn't the only time I saw the man, though. It happened when I found myself on the psychiatric floor of my local hospital that following summer. I was going through a lot that year, still grieving the abrupt loss of my mom only 2 or 3 years prior at 16, going to and leaving a 4-year college in a whirlwind, severe unrest at home, and nowhere else to turn to, really. Just turning 19 years old on top of it all. It might not be the most anyone has experienced, but it was quite the weight in my brain, and my mind just broke open. I ended up at the hospital to reset and recoup. One afternoon during my stay, I was hanging out in the rec room and happened to notice a person on the hospital maintenance team who had come up to do their cleaning rounds. Who else was the maintenance person but, in an almost cruel twist of fate, the man who inappropriately asked me about my tongue ring at the store about a half year prior. I remember freezing up a bit when I saw him, but he hadn't seen me, and I was able to slip away. I told a buddy I had made on the floor with me about the man, and they were so angry. They wanted to go tell the staff, but I just wanted it all to be over. Thankfully, the man did not come back to clean again in the time I was there. For the longest time, I downplayed this experience, like, well, it wasn't as bad as ABC because he didn't XYZ. But over time, I've grown to know that it was that bad. Anytime a man makes you feel unsafe and uncomfortable while you're just existing in the world is not okay. Since starting my transition, and now being physically perceived as male by society more and more with each shot, each deepening of my tone, each hair in my neck beard, it has become a top priority for me to stop this kind of shit in its tracks when I see it. You're right. You don't have to be non-male to stand up to creepy men. In fact, men need to push back against creeps more than they do. So that's my call to action, fellas. Call out creepers and help keep our community safe. And yes, hashtag all men. Unless you are stopping your bros from abusing, you are very much being like the one kid in the group project who lets everyone else do the work and then takes credit when the project gets an A. Don't do that. Pull your weight. Thanks, Christy and Heather, for taking the time to read this. And, as many say, for giving us a platform to share our stories. I hope that my fellow men will take this to heart and start to do better with me. And to the girls, gays, and nays, I see you and I've got your back.
Well, thank you, R, for sharing this. You bring up a really good point of, again, like, well, it wasn't that bad. They just said something to me. No, if they made you feel that type of way to where you're like, body is physically reacting like fight or flight, you're looking away for an escape, you can't even finish your job, you got to go into the back to do it, then it is that bad. No one has the right to make anybody else feel that way. And what is any grown man doing talking to an 18-year-old who they don't even know is 18 at the time in a retail setting? Like, none of this is good. Nobody, like we always say, I tell like my kids, grown-ups don't need kids' help. If an adult asks you for help doing something, they don't need your help. They'll go find another grown up. And he's not even, it first starts out with like store stuff, but the tongue ring is an immediate red flag.
Oh, certainly. And being like, you're the same age as my daughter. And you're right. I think it's like we tend to, and by we, I mean people who are victimized in situations like this, large and small, but especially when it seems outwardly like you said, oh, well, they didn't do X, Y, and Z, or it wasn't this way. When we dig down deeper into the words that he used, he didn't just say like, how many towels do you have, whatever. That would be like, this guy is just asking about the store. But to say, oh, you have a tongue ring, did you get that for any reason? He's now implying oral sex, making out, whatever you want to imply. I think oral sex is probably the implication. And my thing is like, men, Dennis Reynolds is not a person that you are to aspire to. He is a satirical character about how predatory and horrible men are. And the whole, like, it's the implication, which is, it's funny on the show because again, that's exactly what men are doing. Like, he is a satirical character that is acting in a manner that men act in every day, where it's like, well, I didn't say anything. I just merely implied this. And so to come up and be like, oh, you have a tongue ring? What do you use that for? Understanding, again, that you have chosen to prey on a person who is shackled by the confines of their position at their job. And you're like, they're not going to do anything. Watch this. And so also you're way older. So there's a power imbalance too. Absolutely. So I love your call to action. And I agree. Like, it is, if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. And somebody did I think it was on TikTok, but it was like a bottle of paint they were pushing it with their hand. And they're like, there's 3 things you can do if you see somebody pushing a bottle of paint to the edge of the table that's about to fall on the ground. You can put your hand behind it and help them push it. You can do nothing, which lets them still push it, or you can put your hand on the other side and stop them from pushing it. But do you see how there are 3 options, but only 2 outcomes? And 2 of those options that you can do lead to the same outcome. So you can see how doing nothing is the same as helping. Like, unless you're pushing against it, you're not. And the paint's going to end up on the floor.
No, that's a good analogy.
It was such a good visual analogy. And I was like, I love that. And I think that applies to, and they were sort of talking about in general, like fascism and resisting and stuff. But I think also on single issues like this, of if you are in the room and someone jokes or someone says, or you hear it and not go. And again, you don't have to be like, I would like to speak to you about feminist theory. A good, the fuck is wrong with you, brother, is fine. Like, because I understand too, it's like you have to navigate these masculine spaces in a certain way. But again, shame is universal. Yeah. It's universal. Be like, you said what to an 18-year-old girl about her tongue ring? You fucked up, man. That's nasty. Like, talking to your bros, like, you have to say something. Otherwise being like, ugh, yikes. And then you get home and go, God, Bill was talking about how he hit on this teenage girl at the store and it was so weird. I would be like, and what did you say? Yeah. And we don't hang out with Bill anymore, right? No, Bill's not coming to the cookout because Bill's a sex predator. So, and also remind them, like, hey, would you say that? What if that was your mom or your sister? Yes. Or, like, sometimes relating it to where it shouldn't have to. People like that only give a shit if it, like, personally affects them. But, be like, this isn't just universal to you. You are like a lot of men, and the people in your life that you love that are female aren't immune to this. In fact, I guarantee you they've experienced it. And what I hate about this, and I would have done the exact same thing at this age, especially at a retail position, which I had at this age, is you feel like you have to take it because it is like customer service comes first and all that. And I think now, in the year of our Lord 2025, fuck that. Nah. Like, if anybody says anything to you, call them out. If you see the lady with the cotton hair and she's like, says something, be like, actually, he made me feel really uncomfortable because he said X, Y, Z, like, I think we've hopefully come far enough. And even if we haven't, fuck it. If you start doing it, then it just makes it come far enough that we're like, no one is putting up with this shit anymore. Be the change we want to see in the world. And I agree. I would have done exactly the same thing where, and thank you, by the way, in your writing for the granularity of the situation. And I hope anybody that's listening that is not, been on the receiving end of the harassing situation, really put yourself in and the other writer's shoes, because that feeling of like the question, how old are you? We know because of pattern recognition, this is about to go down a dangerous and scary way. Your heart starts racing. Your armpits sting. Your feet feel a certain way. And it's like, now physiological responses are being caused in me by a person who is by, I think, general morality standards overstepping a bound. Like,
for sure.
Sexually, like I said, especially in a situation where you're like, I'm younger than you. You're younger than my daughter. What the fuck does that mean, you pervert?
Yeah. Why did that even pop into your head to say, why are you even engaging this person if not to hit on them, hope that something comes out of it, make them uncomfortable? You're not there to shop or buy towels, so mosey on about your business.
No, shove this washcloth in your mouth.
One question, and I've been racking my brain because I feel like I should know this, but what is the store?
Oh, with 3 letters in it. I know. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, Macy's?
Well, it feels like it would be. At first I was like, DSW? But that's not just shoes.
No, that's like a department store. Or that's not a department store. Yeah. Maybe it's not in our region. Like we don't have them in Texas.
Okay, maybe so.
So throw it in we're going to post, obviously we have a Freaky Friday post. Throw it in the comments on Instagram or on Patreon or whatever. Because we can't think of the name of the store.
It has 3 big letters in its name.
So.
And my Myers-Briggs, it's like a riddle we have to solve. Starts with an E.
Well, that's like extroverted. So if you're like Myers-Briggs extrovert, you might want to go like work retail is what I said.
Okay. 3 big letters in its name.
A riddle for our time.
3 big letters. Man, I'm going to be racking my brain about this. Ari, please email and let us know what this is.
Yeah, tell us the answer to the riddle, and then everybody else guess your answer on the comments. But thank you for writing this in, and like I said, and for being especially, we always appreciate all the stories, but in our What the Fuck is Wrong with Men, I hope that if you are a man who listens, thanks for being here, first of all, and I want you to know, like, this is the idea of sharing these is so that you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and go, oh my God, that's what it feels like. Not to say that you have made people feel this way, but understanding that this is every woman you know in your life have felt this way at least once in their life.
For sure.
I guarantee
100%.
it. Not to sound like Men's Warehouse, but guarantee it.
Well, the Men's Warehouse is who's producing,
they need
not
to make
the actual store, but just the warehouse of men. Is who's producing these people, but absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never been said anything in retail as vile as stabby tabby, but I've had people say inappropriate things to me while I've been working, and you just kind of have to be like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Okay, I'm going to go over here and try to get out of it. Or, I mean, I can't even list all the times someone has said something that's made me feel like, oh, fuck, what is
your
happening?
brain just goes,
yeah.
It remembers them all. I specifically remember a Magic Time Machine and a guy saying a nasty thing. And then I went and told all the male servers in that restaurant, you can roast people. And they just went by the table and were like, did you go get your clothes out of the dumpster? And just like went over and roasted him and were assholes to him. And I was like, love you guys. Thanks. But it's like, you shouldn't have to do that, right? Like I should just be able to clean the tables in peace and not have to be like, look up my skirt or whatever. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to be vulnerable and share your side of it. And I hope that I think if you are listening to us, you are an emotionally intelligent person to understand where everybody's coming from. But I saw a TikTok comment that said emotional intelligence is the new 6'1", and like it is though, right? Like I'm no longer interested if someone's like super hot and awesome and this, but then they're like not emotionally intelligent and don't want to be compassionate and empathetic. It's like, ew, yikes, nasty. So it's like, no, you can be, I don't care. Physically, whatever, the hottest thing in the world is to be emotionally intelligent and compassionate.
And that is why Selena Gomez is with Benny Blanco, is because he is so emotionally intelligent.
Sure.
And as soon as he opens his mouth, he gets hotter.
Yes.
Like, because you're like, oh, you're like on the right side of everything. And you're a huge green flag, you know?
Somebody who's like, I love you for who you are. And also that's not okay. Or these things are not okay. And stand up for yourself. So we love to see it. He also was eating Popeye's fried chicken in the bathtub with some noodles the other day. And I was like, sign me up.
With noodles. Chicken and noodles. Damn.
Time.
He also filled the bathtub with queso for Valentine's Day.
That was crazy.
For Selena. So the bathtub gets a lot of food play in their house.
It's like, listen, we know you guys' kinks. We know too much about you now, for real. But I like Selena's like she's our neighbor. She's from DFW. We got to stand the neighbor. So thank you all for sharing these stories today. It's always eye-opening for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone who sent in your Freaky Friday stories. If you have an odd but true story, maybe you've encountered Bigfoot, you've seen a UFO, you had a brush with true crime, or you felt the presence of an otherworldly being, send them in at sinisterhood.com/Freaky Friday. Speaking of freaky, got something creepy caught on camera? Found a weird or unexplainable clip online? Maybe you just have a funny video you need us to see. Send it our way and we'll live react to it during Sunday Scaries, our weekly live stream over on Patreon every Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Don't worry, it's totally free. You just sign up like you would on YouTube, free member. And just by doing that, you also get free stuff sent to you.
Yeah, if you sign up to just do Sunday Scaries, as a free member, you get archived bonus content that we've released monthly. So you get one coming up, but then also you get the whole backlog of free stuff too, just for signing up. And you get to see all the badass videos that Stabby Tabby has sent in so far.
Yes.
And all of the archives are available to watch for the last 8. We've now done 8 Sunday Scaries. I can't believe it.
I know.
And the 9th one is coming up this weekend. So tune in 8:30 on Patreon and go to sinisterhood.com/scaries to submit those videos.
Mm-hmm. If you like our free episodes, you'll love our Patreon bonus content. You can join for free to see what we're up to next, or dive into over 1,000 hours of segments like Judge Christie, where I rule on petty grievances you bring before the court. True Crime Headlines, where we break down the latest news and updates in true crime. Heather Saves, where anything Heather has found late night scrolling can be discussed. And Am I the Asshole? Unpopular opinions and other subreddits that we feel require our input.
We also offer free trials, so you can join for free. Check out the perks of any tier for a week and cancel anytime before the trial is over without getting charged. It's different from a free member, which you can just be a free member forever. But if you do a free trial, you can dip your toe in the tiers and kind of see what each of the tiers get and sample everything for a week to see if you want to stick around. And if you do, you can do an annual membership. You get 1 month free. And when you do stick around, what are some of the things you might get?
You can get ad-free episodes, monthly live stream Q&As. They're on the 3rd Thursday of every month, quarterly live bonus content. We let y'all vote on what you want to see. So Am I the Asshole? Heather Saves, whatever. Weekly audio bonus content, mini-sodes, merch discounts, and community of the best listeners on the whole internet.
Head over to Sinisterhood.com and click shop on the top banner to check out Sinisterhood merch like t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, and even clothes for your kiddos.
While you're on our website, you can also review the show and submit topics and cases you'd like us to cover. You'll also find fun things like topic-based playlists and tickets for Crime Wave at Sea 2025.
All aboard! The ship is leaving the harbor November 3rd through 7th. We're leaving out of Fort Lauderdale. We're going to the Bahamas, Bermuda, Bahama. Come on, pretty mama, to the triangle. There's aliens. Will the Kraken show himself? We don't know yet, but we will be on the ship. Henry and Ed from last podcast will be on the trip. True Crime Campfire. Scared to death. You guys. Us. Aliens in the ocean. Aliens in the sky. True crime on stage. New best friends you've never met. Unlimited food.
Yeah.
Dance contest, karaoke,
Shuffleboard,
shuffleboard,
lots
belly
of water
flop.
slides and pools.
I just saw, I told you I'm on cruise TikTok now, and there was just some guy getting fucking down, and he was just dancing alone on one of the decks.
Hell
and I was
yeah.
like, that's about to be me. I'm going to be on TikTok. They're like, look at this lady. She's like, I'm out there trying to get through the Bermuda Triangle. That's why I'm going on this trip. They say it's Crime Wave. Certainly, yes. And it's going to be great. But we're going to see the triangle. Go to crimewaveatsea.com/sinister. Get that fan code. Get your cabins now before they're sold out. You can follow us on Instagram and Threads at Sinisterhood Pod. Like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Follow us on YouTube and TikTok at Sinisterhood Podcast. Watch clips from episodes, live streams, and more. If you want a custom video shout out from us that is the most unique and personal gift you could give to the Sinisterhood fan in your life, book a cameo now. We love to wish happy birthday, birth announcements, congratulations on any type of accomplishment, and we will create a custom video that will be immediately viewed and sent. It's a very thoughtful, unique gift you can order from the comfort of your couch, your toilet. We don't know where you're ordering it from. And it'll be unique every time because they're always different.
Absolutely.
Go over to cameo.com to order that. Where are you at on the internet?
I'm on Instagram and Threads at Christy M. Wallace and TikTok at Christy or GTFO. Heather?
I'm on the internet at Heather versus the World.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy.
Sinister.